Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer 3023-5-603. This is it's a double-acting spring hinge. This is a half surface type. Relatively uncommon, but nonetheless, you certainly do see these occasionally. Not that you may notice them. You got to be pretty nerdy as a hardware guy to notice a half-surface double-acting spring hinge. Anyway, here's what it looks like. Half-surface double-acting spring hinge. This bad boy is going to look just like this in cross-section. Okay, what you have here is some terminology, half-surface. The term in the description refers to the door versus it being half mortise. The important term, the adjective, I guess, refers to the door. It's the leaf that applies to the door. So this is a half surface hinge, which means the door leaf would be surface mounted. So your door is going to sit right in here. Okay, versus a full mortise, this leaf would then be bent back and come down in here. Versus a half mortise that would have the leaf mortised to the door normally, and then surface mounted to the face of the frame. I don't think there are any double-acting half mortise hinges. But this is a half surface. That means that the door is going to mount in the pocket. Okay, your door is going to swing out this way. It's going to come back, swing this way, with this leaf staying where it is. Okay, 3023 means half surface. The more common is the 3029, which is full mortise. You can certainly mortise it. The leaf is surface mounted to the face of the jamb. It's not mortised, but where the leaves mount between the edge of the door and the frame itself is the 3029. This is only different in the orientation of this leaf. Otherwise, it's basically the identical hinge. The 5 in the part number, while it means 5-inch, it's more of a reference to the thickness of the door that this hinge can accommodate. The thickness of the door. There is a link below this video to a document called Template, and there's really nowhere on here that you're going to find 5-inch. If I measure the height of the leaf, it's not 5-inch, it's about 4.5. If I measure the overall height of the barrels, it's not 5-inch, it's about 5 3/4. 5-inch is really a reference to the fact that this hinge is made to accommodate doors between 1.1 and 1.5 thick. So if you're in that 1.1, if you have a 1 3/8 door, this would be the right hinge for you. The more common is the 6-inch, which is made for 1 3/4 thick doors. If you've got an 1 3/8 door, go 5-inch. If you've got an 1 3/4 door, go 6-inch, as a general rule. Okay. Now the 603 in the part number, that means a couple of things. It means it's made of steel. It also means that it is a zinc coated or zinc plated corrosion resistant finish. That's on here. Okay. Yeah. And that's what zinc looks like. It's a reflective, polished, silver type color. Would be very appropriate to use in lots of applications where you want a shiny silver color. You can also do these in other plated finishes on steel. Your brass, your bronze, your chrome, satin, polished. You can do an oil rubbed finish. You can do prime coat. You can do 601 bright black japanned. You can also do that. But be mindful, it's steel, so the finishes are going to be representative of what the finish would look like. So if you ordered oil rubbed bronze on a steel base hinge is going to look different than oil rubbed bronze over an architectural bronze base material, but it's quite complementary. Now, you're going to use this hinge when you have a double-acting door. What's very unusual is this client ordered one hinge. They must be replacing the hinge on an installation. You could never use just one. You'd have to have at least 2 to make this work. Now, there's a link below this video I mentioned earlier to the template. The template will give you lots of dimensional information. It will also show you a cross-section of what the hinge looks like when it's installed in the upper right-hand corner. Give you locations of the screw holes, and speaking of that, screws are included. Got all wood screws with this hinge. Other dimensional properties are there for you to review. We won't beleaguer those points here. There's also then technical specifications, that is a really handy link, and I would ask you to hold on to that link. Let's look at installation instructions first. Installation instructions, really what's most important on this page is that you adhere to the guidelines when it comes to quantity of hinges on a door. If you're putting 3 hinges on a door, install them as they show, soldier stacked at the top, then 1 at the bottom. If you're going to put 4 on a door, put 2 at the top, 1 in the middle, and then 1 at the bottom. You might lower that 3rd hinge down a little bit further to make it look symmetrical. But according to the guidelines, that's where they want you to install the material. The reasoning for that is the further down you get on the door, the less load of the door that the hinge carries. 70% of the door weight is actually held by that top hinge and that top hinge only. And if you ever take note of doors and the wear pattern on hinges, that top hinge will always be more worn out than the other hinges, especially the bottom. Okay, that's why they want 2 hinges, because a double acting door, you could have an 1 3/8 3070 door and it's going to weigh 100 pounds. That's a lot happening through the opening. And it doesn't just go from 0 to 90 back to 0 to -90 to, it actually goes a bit elliptically, right, through the opening. It actually moves a bit elliptically because that door is going to, as it comes swinging through, it's really going to kind of pull that out a little bit, ever so slightly. And I've had people take a full-size door and say, I only need 2 hinges. Well, they hang the 2 doors and they let them rip, and those doors just bam into each other because they're good here, okay? They've got good room, but when they just make them work, they come out of their opening so that they actually hit. And that's why you need 2 at the top. And a client called me and said, your hinges are broken. Tell me the scenario. Got a 150-pound door. Okay, how many hinges? 2. Stop. Stop. So the question was, did you need just 1 more per door or 2 more per door? I believe the client went with 1 more per door, and that solved the problem. So that's what that document is handy for. Follow that. Now back to the technical specifications. And because this is a half surface, they're not giving us a lot of dimensions on what to undersize the doors for. You can see in the technical specifications how they want you to install it. And that's all good and well. All of those 6 drawings that are there, those are handy. Let's skip those. Go to the right side, installation instructions. Remove the spring tension from each barrel by inserting the tension rod into the tension adjustment hole. Rotate in direction of the arrow as shown in figure 2 or 3 and remove the tension pin. There are no tension pins on this at all. That's how they'll ship. If they are sent with spring tension, these tension pins, for every double acting hinge you order like this, a 3023, you'll need 2 tension pins. For every order that you place, you need 1 tension rod. You don't need more than 1 of these. What they're talking about is removing the tension. There are no tension on these, so let's skip over that. Locate the hinges as shown in figure 1. We discussed that already. What they're not telling us, though, is how much room to allow to get the whole shoot and match installed. Okay, your door is obviously going to come up right to the back side of this. It's going to mount here literally. Then at that point, we can you can use your tape measure or your caliper, and you can measure 0.225. 0.225 is the hard dimension here. So I would be calculating 0.25 for sure, 0.25, a 1/4 inch. I might skim that a little, but not much. Let's say a 1/4 inch, but then you're going to have to leave room on the other side of the door. So what I'm driving at is, what is the door size? You have to start with something. Do you have a finished opening? Then you'll deduct from there. Take your hinge allowance out, take your door net width, and that you determine your door net width. Or do you have a fixed door width and you can't change that, and you're going to create an opening around it? Regardless, you got 0.225 according to my caliper. You know your door is going to sit down here in the pocket. you know your door is going to be over here. How much clearance do you allow over at this leading edge? Well, I would say probably 3/16 for sure if it's a square edge door. I wouldn't allow for much less than that. And if it's a radius edge door, you could certainly make that 1/8 of an inch easily. If you do a square edge door, you might want to just give yourself basically a 1/4 inch here and basically a 1/4 inch at the other end, so that when you look at the door in elevation, the gaps are the same. And a 1/4 inch really isn't going to be the end of the world in terms of that margin, but it will be directly related to whether or not you radius the door style, the leading edge style, because then when you take those hard corners off of the edge, you can really fit more door in the given space. Radiusing is very easy. You just need a router and a large round over bit. I have a round over bit that's, I don't know, 2 1/4 inch radius, so it's a it's a giant router bit that I'll use for instances like this. Or maybe it's 1 7/8, I don't recall. It's a large round over bit. So if you, most likely you're going to have a finished opening size, and then you got to pre-fit your door from there. So you'll make your decision, and then you'll adjust accordingly if you need to. Now, once you've got the door sized and you understand where you're going to locate the hinges, install the hinges, get the door hung, get it shimmed in place so that they're not going to sag because there's no tension on the spring. Okay, get them shimmed up at the bottom so that they're stable. Then at that point, you can start to set tension. With the tension collar pointed towards the top of the door, you'll note there's not one down here. And turn it in the direction of the arrow. That's going to be clockwise. And as you do so, you reveal new additional holes. As I turn that, I get new holes. Into one of those two new holes, insert that tension pin. Then it's going to keep tension. Come over to the other side. Do the same thing over here, clockwise, in the direction of the arrow, and stick a pin in there, and then it will rest right back down in here. I wouldn't exceed 3 holes. Forgive me. Because you're going to 90 degree, if you're going to 180 degree, 3 holes is generally the max. This hinge specifically, don't exceed 5 holes. So given the size of the spring, 4 would be typical to 90. They're saying don't exceed 5. If you hear severe creaking, it might be the contorting of the spring. You're going to want to back that down. And if you've got 2 hinges and you're finding out that you just don't have the door standing up, you really probably need to add a 3rd hinge. And that's how you adjust it. Now, what they're saying, though, is if you do have a pair of doors, they literally want one pair of doors to have the tension collar up. They want the other pair of doors with the tension collar down. This time they're going to be counterclockwise, or just follow the direction of the arrow that's on here to increase tension. It's really that simple. Not much to it at all. You can lubricate the springs over time. I've had customers say, I've had this spring hinge for 10 years and it's starting to make a sound. Okay, get in there with some graphite, some sort of lubricant. That's not a problem. You get inside of here, in between its area. You can work it in there. I would mask off your area so you don't get any overspray on anything, nothing on the floor. And you can do that because that spring is made of steel. There's humidity in the moisture. There's humidity in the air in general. And over time, it will certainly oxidize. So that's not a problem. I've known these hinges to last for years and years and years. Very commonly, you'll see these double-acting spring hinges installed in restaurant doors. From the kitchen to the counter area, restaurant doors all the time. Okay. Looking at the rest of the document, I don't see anything else to call out, so I'll say that this video is good to be concluded, except that the extended description, it's a half surface hinge, non-template. That means that these holes for the screws don't follow any particular industry standard location. Refer to the template for those locations. It's non-handed. You can install it either way. Made of steel for 1 1/8 to 1 1/2 doors. Minimum door height, 6'8". They don't really tell you a maximum door height. I don't really see double-acting doors that are 8 foot tall, 6'8" or 7'0". 2 hinges, 65 pounds. If you get beyond that, go with 3. 2'8" doors, 2 hinges. 3-foot doors, most common. 2'8" doors, 2 hinges. 3-foot doors, 3 hinges. unless you have a small door, that's a 60-pound door, that's 2'8", order 3 hinges. Because the point, it's not because I'm a hinge salesman as much as I know you're going to need it. Door flange is surface mounted to the face of the door. The jamb flange is mounted to the face of your cased opening frame. Do not use on doors with a beveled edge. The door has to be square edged, at least on this side, because otherwise your door is going to sit askew. It's going to be canted to one side or the other, so make sure you've got a square edged door. And is all packed. It is packed with wood screws. Permits doors to open in either direction and automatically return to the closed position. Provides maximum protection for doors subject to normal abuse of lift trucks due to resiliency of spring support and shock absorbing reaction of flexible mounting. I have no idea what that means. Provides maximum protection for doors subject to normal abuse of lift trucks due to resiliency of spring support and shock absorbing reaction of flexible mounting. That, by the time you see this video, that line will not be there. That has nothing to do with this hinge. It is for their... Bommer makes, in their catalog, they have door guards, big looping pieces of steel that you can literally walk up to with a cart and push them open. And they do go along with double-acting spring hinges, but that line does not belong there. I'll have that removed. Adjustable spring tension permits power and adjustment. No hanging strip is needed. That's a reference to certain double-acting spring hinges that need to be mounted to a strip like a furring strip before it could be mounted to the jamb. Bommer double-acting spring hinges have no requirement of a hanging strip that I'm aware of. And that's it. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo. And right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer 3023-5-603 or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.